For most people, their finances aren't one big problem. It's 100 small ones. A retirement account from a job 5 years ago. A budget that lives in your head, but never on paper. Life insurance that you meant to look into. A will, half finished, or not even started. And the longer you leave those loose ends untied, the harder it becomes to move forward with peace of mind. At Dominion Wealth, we walk with you step by step to help you tie it all together. We meet you where you are. We listen. We get your financial picture out of your head and into practice. Then we build a strategy to meet your needs now, prepare for your future, and bless the next generation. We don't pressure you. We give biblical, honest guidance. Let the strategy follow your values and help find the right solutions. If your financial path feels uncertain, let's get together, one-on-one, and get you on the right track. Book a free consultation today. We are here to help you get your finances in order so you can feel confident about the future. From baptism to burial, Dominion's got you covered. You can find us at reform.money.
We're talking with George Williams today. Stick around. Exploring theology, doctrine, and all of the fascinating subjects in between. Broadcasting from an undisclosed location, Dead Men Walking starts. It's not undisclosed. Everyone knows where I live, George. That's 6 years old. We got to change that.
Hit me up if you want his address.
Well, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Dead Men Walking Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Moore. Thanks for coming along on the ride. Thanks for telling a friend. Keeping the pirate ship afloat. We'll never be behind a paywall. We do have some great sponsors, though. I want you to go check out Deus Vult Rebinding. They just sent me a new Bible. Rebound it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And right now, if you order before the end of the month, 25% off for a Father's Day special. I mean, these are $300-$400 Bibles. You get 25% off. Use Dead Men Walking 25, and it could save you $75-$100. But get something that will last for generations. I have one here on the counter too. I think this one's goat leather. Is that even how you say it? But this is my study Bible. He's done a few for me. But Deus Vult Rebinding, just click below in the link. And you can click through, use that code, and save you some money and support a brother in the Lord who's doing some awesome work. He does journals, Bibles, all kinds of stuff. Anything with a spine on it, really. Maybe except a human. But other than that, we got the business out of the way. If you're watching right now, or maybe you heard the voice in the intro, we were joking around. My address is not undisclosed. I'm a realtor and a county commissioner. Everyone knows where I live. People show up on my doorstep. So I don't know why we say undisclosed, but it's George Williams. George,
hey,
how you doing?
Hey, I actually really like this Bible. I've actually given a lot of thought to the idea of hard Bibles because they're going away.
Yeah.
And if you don't have one, you should get one because they're going to become rare. And I was just with, I work for a Christian organization that's about 100 years old, and they have in their headquarters the Bibles of every former president, so of the
cool.
organization.
Of the organization, yeah.
You know, so after someone serves, they sort of donate their Bible, and like,
That's a cool tradition.
Yeah, it's this beautiful display of godly men and their hardcover Bible. I just grieve that one day, there will be just like a phone sitting there. Well,
phone, or right now you see a lot of different versions with digital AI paraphrasing things when you ask it for Bible verses. Not to, let's not put our tinfoil hats on right away at the top of the episode. But I think there's a reason why Christ said, hide my word in your heart. Like there's a thing about memorization, having a physical copy that can't be changed, right? Like print. Yeah. And also, too, like, the older I get, you start thinking about, like, generationally and legacy. Like, my mom has said for years, and you know my mother, and I'll give you a proper introduction here as soon as we finish with this, but she always said, like, you're going to get this Bible. You're going to get, like, she has different phases of Bibles in her life. She's like, I'm going to hand it down. She writes things in it. And I go, what a great thing to do for your kids. And do you really want to give them, like, a paperback that's falling apart? There's something heirloom to it. Like, and the gentleman I was talking about, his name is Greg, Deus Vult Rebinding. I mean, he goes to painstaking, like the ribbons are a certain silk, and like, you know what I mean, and double stitches, and you go, it's gonna last for a little bit. And plus, like, you and I were book people, so it's like I'm on my third Rebind Bible, and I'm looking around. I'm like, what else can I rebind? Valley of Vision prayer book, like what,
I have my great grandfather's Episcopalian Bible.
Yeah,
that I keep on my bookshelf displayed, because it's like you said, there is this idea of legacy, and that legacy is important. So my faith is directly connected to
Yeah.
my ancestors, whether I want to admit it or not. Now, everyone has to choose, in their own life to come before Christ with no one else around, but who built the foundation that I stand upon?
Yeah.
And I think that's the danger that we're in today, is secularism has invaded so much that the foundation for any of our any of our children and our children's children societally is so weak that it's only upon the shoulders of their parents do we hoist our children towards Christ, and with the framework that we can give them.
When I was younger and reading the Old Testament, and every chapter it seemed like God was like, "In Israel, remember when I took you out of Egypt, and remember when I go, why is God always reminding these guys? What is he just rubbing it in their face?" You go, "Oh no, it's literally one generation, and we forget what the Lord has done for us or where we've come from." Like Reagan famously said, liberty is always one generation away, or tyranny or whatever. I feel it's that way with Christianity as well too. Like, it's pointed out in the New Testament, right? Like, Timothy was a multi-generational Christian by that point. Like I think, didn't Paul say your grandmother, right? Like, so he points that out. Like, you've been brought up in the faith. There's something to that, which is awesome. But let me give you an official introduction. I didn't ask you beforehand how you wanted to be introduced. Maybe you can give it to us in your bio a little bit. But you were actually my pastor for quite a few years at City Light in Toledo. And now Trevor has that, right? And love Trevor. Talk to him often, and they're doing great over there. But I want to tell, so you're a pastor, and then right now, what is your official title? Are you still with Open Bible?
Yeah, I'm director of multiplication. So started out doing
a lot of math problems.
Being fruitful and multiplying.
Oh, okay.
I just have children. That's all I do.
That's a great job.
I ensure that all of our churches have children, quite literally.
Yeah.
So that's my role. And
so here's the thing. You don't know that I've talked about you on this podcast for years. I don't know by name, but I've always said I had a pastor that really embraced my uniqueness. And even if you remember this, when I first ran for county commissioner back in 2015, you were like one of the first people to be like, why don't you come up and let's have a discussion about it? Yep. Let's talk about, should we run for office? Shouldn't we run for office? Like, what do you believe? Why should we believe these things? Because you were like a very consensus style pastor, I would say. I don't know if that's the right term, but like, keep everyone involved. Talk about issues that maybe make people uncomfortable a little bit. Even way back then, like politics was even weird in certain churches. It still is, right? Like sometimes they go way too far, and you got like, Jesus wearing an American Eagle leather jacket up on stage, and you got the governor of the state preaching from the pulpit. Don't agree with that. And then you way far the other way, where it's like, we can't talk about anything that remote. Yeah. And it's like, so it's a weird thing in churches now too, still. But I'm trying to give you a compliment. It's long-winded, to where you like kind of just embrace that, which I really appreciated. Right? Like, it was kind of going out on a limb and going, well, let's talk about this. We have someone in the congregation that's doing this, and we should be open about it. And I remember we had a little round table, and it was pretty cool. And I've mentioned that a few times on the podcast, to where there'd be some pastors to where they shy away from anything that might feel a little, I don't want to say get him in trouble, but you know what I mean? That's just uncomfortable. You go, well, let's just not touch that. And I didn't think you were ever really afraid to do that, to not touch it just because it might make you uncomfortable, which I like. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, we try to touch on as many issues as humanly possible, and there'll always be people that disagree with how you handle the pulpit. Like, if you're short on critics, become a pastor, because you'll have many. Yeah. And so, you just do what you feel is important to your context. Our context was a very bizarre context, because we were urban, rural, and suburban, all in this edge of Toledo,
like 5-mile radius.
Yeah, which made, and we had all those demographics represented in our congregation. So we had to approach things from a broader perspective, and then we would end with the absolutes. Like, what are the things that are required for us to stay unified as a body? Here are the different varying beliefs that you can have that don't require, like, unity. Is that the right word? That don't require common belief.
Right.
And then here are the ones that do require common belief. So
Sure.
if you fall out of this area, then then we don't necessarily consider you a part of our fellowship. You can still come and hang out with us. I remember probably the most, we didn't do this on a Sunday morning, nor we didn't do this during the normal gatherings of the saints. However, probably the most radical one we did is we brought a former director of an abortion clinic and our, director of the pregnancy center, and had a conversation in our church and invited the community in at large. And this was a time in our city where the abortion clinic had gotten bricks thrown through its window. Now, we pray for the end of abortion. I still pray for the end of abortion, and I'm grieved at the recent Supreme Court decision about the male pill, abortion pill. But the local abortion clinic had bricks thrown through their window, and controversial. Our church paid to replace those windows. We will pray that building closes down, but we won't tolerate violence and
the
destruction.
right, proper, and legal way.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. Someone could make that case that the right and proper way is to say
burn it to the ground.
that it has no place in our society, and that there's some level of. But at the time, where I was philosophically was like, no, this is wrong, and we want to, bless those who, persecute. I don't know. I don't know if I would today. I have definitely some changing views. I don't know if I'm ready to burn it down, but
right,
I might be a little closer.
Accidentally kick a gasoline can over and light a cigarette. No,
feds. I'm just kidding.
It's all jokes.
All jokes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, just to refresh my memory and for the listeners, tell me a little bit of your kind of testimony and background a little bit, just so people know where you're coming from. We know pastor, and now you're in an executive position, but like married, kids, like, testimony a little bit. It doesn't have to be 2 hours long.
Yeah, just the real fast,
or as long as you want.
Praying.
Every time I have someone come on and tell their testimony, people are like, you should just do a podcast where it's just testimonies. And I'm like, I do like testimonies.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, look what the Lord has done. And they're so widely varying and different, and they're all awesome because they end with, now I'm saved. Yeah. But go ahead. Sorry.
I had a praying grandmother. She was good old Baptist lady, paranoid schizophrenic. So as a young kid, no one could relate to her, but I could, because I think all kids are a little paranoid schizophrenic, Yeah. And so, she was like one of my best friends as a kid. She was very much like Winnie the Pooh, just sort of, because she was on all these drugs. They had to drug her up. So she's a little bit cloudy-headed.
Yep.
And just kind of, she would have me read the Bible to her when she'd come over to the house and visit. She'd have me read the Bible to her. And I always thought it was odd because she had me read the same darn chapter, John, chapter 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, Grandma, I read this. I know, but can you read it? Like she clearly she knew what she was doing, but it was like, I can't see very good. I need you to read this to me. And she would lead me through the sinner's prayer like every week. Yeah. And maybe either she forgot or she was hoping it'd stick at one of these times.
Right.
But she laid that foundation in my life for sure.
By the way, still not just a bad prayer to say. The sinner's prayer. Just if you like, we're commanded to repent and confess. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the deal is there power in confession?
Sure.
Does that prayer lead me away from Christ?
Right.
No. Does it lead me into some idea of Christ that's not true?
Yeah.
No. I mean, there could be theological debates on the idea of Jesus in our hearts, and that's fine. But from a 9-year-old boy.
Yeah.
This idea was that I'm moving towards Christ.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And, I didn't have any discipleship. I didn't have any.
Did you come from a Christian home? I can't remember.
My parents were like the C&Es. They were Christmas and Easter. There'd be little spouts where we'd attend church for a couple months, maybe.
Okay.
I think there was back when the Methodists were still Methodists. I think we went to a Methodist church, and they were the Christian types.
But nothing like it wasn't a huge
there was no
thing
emphasis.
In your life. Okay, no emphasis.
Yep. And then junior high, I girl in the next neighborhood over, had a crush on her. Her mom said, well, if you want to hang out with her, you have to go to church with her on Wednesdays. I'm like, sign me up. Let's go.
Right.
Went to a Pentecostal charismatic church in Petersburg and got really touched by the Lord there.
Yeah.
Like, here's the powerful thing. I was in junior high at the time, and I had a youth pastor. Wasn't anything extraordinary, but he would answer my questions.
Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And dude, I can't remember a single question I asked or what
Right.
answer he gave. Alls I knew is that I was learning about God, and it was moving me in that direction. And every question that I got answered made me hungry for like 10 more questions to get answered.
Yeah.
So I got baptized at that church, and the day that I got baptized, my grandmother passed away getting ready to go to my baptism.
No
which
way.
sounds sad, but of course I was grieved that my
You know, my first thought was the Lord was like, well, your work is done. You can come to glory now.
That's exactly it. My older
I know
brother,
it sounds crass, but it's like,
it's exactly what my older brother told me. He said, hey, she had prayed for all her grandchildren to come to Christ, and you were her last grandchild.
wow.
And
That's
so,
crazy. I didn't know that.
yeah.
Huh.
So that set me, I felt marked.
Yeah.
Baptism is powerful. If anyone has never been baptized, there's, is it required for salvation? I don't know. I mean, a case could be made that it's, but like Jesus said, like, be safe, believe and be baptized. And it's
Sure.
like, well, it's better be safe than sorry. I don't want to put it in that light, but there's something extremely powerful, and it certainly was in my life, even in junior high. I had about maybe a 3-week spiritual high after that, where I just could not read the Bible enough. It just was like,
Yeah.
and it was strange, Greg, because like I was already hungry for the Lord before I got baptized. This was like an answer to yeah, do you want to get baptized? Yes, and I'm waiting for but then after that, like something spiritually changed. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
All I know is that there was a ravenous hunger for the Word of God that like I couldn't put my Bible down. Didn't understand half of it, but I just kept consuming it for about 3 weeks. It sort of lasted, and that's, I think, the power of the importance of disciple making.
Yeah.
That the only thing I wish that I had in my life was someone that would have discipled me.
Sure.
Because we had great church services. Disciple making was come to church, and that's what we did, and it was great, and it was sustaining. But
we still have a T-shirt on our website that's a little snarky, and it says "Less pastors and more disciples."
Yeah,
just to kind of put like you don't even say.
I would actually
family
argue,
pastor. This is pastor. It's like how about we disciple one another like the Lord kind of told us, and that would raise up some really great pastors just to be discipled as young men.
Yes, yeah. How about we want like 10x, whatever pastor, we want 10x disciple makers. Or maybe,
but you know what it is?
100x.
Can I be a little cynical? Because I am cynical. What it is, too, what I've noticed in the greater evangelical church is discipleship is really hard. Like to disciple someone or to be discipled, both ends of that, it's like really hard. Like it's coming alongside someone, being there in their darkest hour, teaching them, helping them, getting them in the Word. And then being discipled is like submitting to their authority, most likely if they're wiser and more discerning, to where right now in the greater evangelical church, it's like that it's easier to go to a 3-year Bible college or maybe a 4-year seminary and be like, okay, you're a pastor. And you kind of get a little bit of you get a little bit of the glitz of the title. It's still held in high esteem a little bit, to where disciple's kind of a thankless job. You don't know the names of my 3 mentors or disciples, however you want to call it, that have been like spoke to me over the years of my life the most and like have guided me through things. And like you'll never know their name. You might know my pastor's name. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying anything bad against pastors. I'm just saying sometimes I think as young men too that are going into that, they go, that looks good. And I'm not saying pastoring's easy either. If you're doing it right, it's very, very hard and it'll wear you out emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of a lot of people go, you know what I mean? It almost seems easier to have that title and that pastor than to actually get down and truly disciple someone. And that's been my experience and some other people's experience I've talked to. As I said, more disciples. Let's actually get down on people's level and go, okay, how can I help you today and disciple you in the Word of God?
Yeah, we have a church we started in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it's somewhat of a pastorless church. It's not leaderless, but there's no preaching. There will be messages, but they're very small. And the model, it's kind of the trendy term of the model is called micro church, but
sure.
But the idea is that they're meeting in houses, and they're historically the house church movement was really more of a purist movement. We object to what the big or mainstream church is, so sure. we're kind of this is saying we don't reject we just know that it can't do everything, and so we are coming as a companion, doing the things that they're not doing, not as a rejection, but as a making sure that the kingdom continues to spread in different areas. And so the whole model is disciple making. And the idea is that everyone that comes is called into ministry. So if you're a part of this group, you're called to ministry. Yeah. And that might mean one-on-one disciple making. It might mean starting a group. It might mean doing they have groups that are exclusively outreach groups, like outposts, where maybe it's just community meal that you're doing with your neighbors and stuff like that. So the whole emphasis of the church is that you are called to ministry, and so we want to disciple you in that calling. So that is the number one goal of the entire church, which in theory should be the number one goal of every church.
Sure. Yeah, I'm at a church right now where we've kind of recognized that, and it really is. Obviously, you have Sunday worship, you have Wednesday youth group and children's stuff, obviously. But there's teen Bible studies through the week, men's Bible study, women's Bible study. There's also small group, eight months out of the year. Hospitality is a huge thing. You better be inviting 2 or 3 people over to your house every month. You say better. It's not like you're being threatened. But the culture from the founding pastor has really been kind of flooded through the church of like, no, you're in each other's houses. You're right. And that's kind of where I found too, where discipleship can happen. And you almost can take on a pastoral role without being a pastor in title, by being in someone's home, eating a meal with them, like consistently, right? Like your grandmother, she was Baptist. She probably went to a few potlucks. There's a reason why they still do those. Like, you know what I mean? There's something real about breaking bread with someone, eating with them, being in their life multiple times a week. And then also keeping your church members in the Word of God through those extracurricular things. Sometimes I think some of these para ministries spring up just because maybe the church isn't able to provide that. Yeah. And we can have I had do you know Greg Whitlow at all? He's at Christian Assembly right here in Lambertville. Mm-hmm. No, Reformed Baptist brother. And I said, when I started this podcast, I said, would you be willing just to kind of mentor me through this and pray for me? He goes, absolutely not. You're not part of my congregation. The podcast is a para ministry. Like, you need to go to your pastor and your elders. And I went, oh, and it just kind of threw me because he was like, that was his belief. Like, anything outside of his church, he's like, not only do I not have purview over, but he was a little like, I'll come on your podcast, but I can't like support it. That's not. And I went, okay. And he was very nice about it. And he's a great friend. And I check in with him and talk to him all the time. But it was just like, we can have that conversation. I'm probably a little more lenient on those things than he is. But then I went, oh, there's people out there that, look at that and go, absolutely not. That's outside of the pastors and elders. That's a para ministry. And we don't want anything to do with that. But I go, you could leave so much behind, though, if you do that. There are so many different things that believers among themselves, how they can minister to each other as well, too, through the Holy Spirit. I don't know how we got on that subject, but so grandmother didn't really grow up. You didn't really grow up in a Christian home so much, but grandmother really spoke to you. Passed away on your baptism. Yeah. Then you got into pastoring right away, or
no. I took that was my for lack of being discipled, took my season of sowing my wild oats. There was nothing holding me accountable into into the Fellowship of Believers and ended up moving to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Spent some time there. And really, one of the reasons that I moved to Grand Rapids is I felt very far from God, and I was on a journey. And in my 19-year-old mind, it was, I need to leave home and go on this pursuit.
Sure.
Now, I'm simultaneously living as wicked as I could while also searching, can God somehow find me? Can I find God?
You were so close with all those Dutch Calvinists up there.
Dude, I was so close. And
Wait, maybe that's not good.
I must not have been predestined.
I'm just messing with you. But anyway, for those who don't know, Grand Rapids, huge conglomerate of, Dutch Reformed. But,
Calvin College.
Yeah, they got a college called Calvin College, yeah. So you're up there and you're just kind of living your own life, doing your own thing.
And, just searching for God. Ended up, got a job at a company that the owner of the company was a believer, and he would open up his office to pray every Wednesday. And so lunch hour from 12, and they didn't stop until they felt like they were done. So these prayer meetings would last for 2 hours, and they're, right up my vein. They, all these guys were charismatic, so they'd be speaking in tongues for hours. And I would go into those meetings, and Greg, I just weep.
Yeah.
Just like the ugly weep, like just snot. And it was embarrassing because I'm 19, trying to be a man.
Sure.
And working in the warehouse, I'm all dirty, and I just weep. And I didn't understand it at the time. I had no context. In fact, it was really embarrassing.
Looking back, do you think it was like a conviction of the Holy Spirit?
I know exactly
or like what was it, a comforting of the Holy Spirit?
It was, the way that I interpret it
Yeah.
was a sanctification, because,
There you go.
and conviction's fine too, because I began feeling guilty for things that I was doing in my life that I did not have. I was living in absolute sin with no feeling whatsoever that I was doing anything bad.
Yeah.
And at the same time trying to pursue God. And as I would meet God in those moments, all of a sudden, when I'd leave those places and go do the thing, and I would continue to do those things, but all of a sudden I'm like, I don't feel right about this anymore.
Yeah.
And slowly, I'd give up, cut away something, refuse to do something. And it was by far not perfect. I mean, it was a bumpy road.
Sure.
But by 20 years old, I found just a random church, it was a mega church, and got connected. They were going on a mission trip. Dude, I'd gone to the church maybe 3 weeks in a row, and I signed up for the mission trip because I'm like, I just got to go serve God. And I remember, there's these moments in your life that, like, I can't even remember the dude's name. I don't know what he looks like. Alls I remember is when we went on this mission trip, he said, you can't help others grow more than you've already grown.
Yeah.
That actually terrified me, Greg, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
My life's a mess.
I'm not helping at all.
Yeah. And I knew I had this overwhelming conviction, specifically in the area of alcohol. And that was a huge thing. Like, I could have all these things where I'm like, I don't want to do these things. I drink a little bit. Yeah. That didn't be a lot of bit. And then I would do all the things that I didn't want to do. And I knew that I had to cut this out of my life, at least until I went on the mission trip.
Yeah.
And so go on this trip. It was a great experience. Come back, and I remember getting off the plane, and in my mind, I have this thought, I can go drink again. I'd given up drinking for that period of time so that I could grow in my faith. And I said, I can go drink again. And it wasn't an audible voice, but it was the closest thing to it.
Sure.
Where I had the deepest understanding of, and this is how I articulate it, like, this is what I understood overwhelmingly from an exterior thing, that there are two paths, and this is the one I have for you. But if you go back to alcohol, you will choose a different path than the one that I have planned for you.
Yeah.
And I understand what it is now. It was the fear of the Lord. I had an encounter with the fear of the Lord because it did terrify me.
Sure.
It wasn't like, oh, okay. It was, I understood the reverence of God in this place that caused me to make decision not lightly, caused me to make a decision understanding the severity of this decision. And I made a choice that day to never drink again. And I've held to it. I'm 44 years old. I was 21 at the time, 44 years old now, and never touched it. Now,
you know what I love about that really quickly is I've totally went full circle on this from when you and I were at the same church going, oh no, like there's freedom in Christ, people can drink, blah, 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 blah.
That's true.
To where now I still believe that, but now I don't.
Yeah.
Because I realized the more you're in confession and prayer, the more you realize there's a lot of things that are okay, but they can quickly become an idol in your life. Whether that's the news feed, politics, 2 fingers of scotch at the end of the night. And I went, I don't like that I'm running to that first before running to Christ.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther has a great quote that says, anything your heart clings to in times of trouble, that is your true God. And I went, oh, I've had many things I cling to instead of when I feel stressed out or in trouble or anxious. And so now it's one of those things to where you and I, and for those listening, you and I really haven't spoken probably 10 years or something. But when I was at the church, I was more, no, there's a freedom you can partake. And to this day, I still believe that. Look, I believe you, and maybe we differ on this. I believe it's a sharp object. God gives us a lot of sharp objects to play with. Use them respectfully and don't sin with them. But at the same time, now for me personally, I just choose not to. And I'm in a church where, I don't know, I would guess 60 to 70% say, let's go have a craft beer. Let's go smoke a cigar. And I'm like, now I feel like I finally got to this church to where theologically we line up. And now I'm the one that's like, nah, I don't partake and they're cool with it, right? Like everyone's like, okay, yeah, no, we get it. Because there's people who don't. But it was one of those things where it was just a check in my spirit of, it could take you to a place you don't want to. You rely on it too much. You enjoy it a little too much. Not that I'm saying we can't be joyful Christians, but you know what I mean? Does that making sense?
Absolutely. I've never heard someone tell me a story in their walk in faith where alcohol made it better.
Right.
And I've only heard it saying that, and that God led them out of that, never into it. And again, I'm not making a theological statement, but I am making a cultural statement in the sense that anything that I've ever led, I've required myself and our leadership team to abstain from alcohol, not from a theological basis, but from a prudence basis. Like, hey, there's lots of things we do and don't do that aren't in the Bible. Like, hey, if you're going to be on my leadership team, I need you to attend church. I need you to, do these certain things. And some of those things will be like, hey, I have a biblical case. Some of these things are like, no, this is just practical.
I mean, I think you can make an argument for sober-minded, one of the requirements of elders and pastors, right? Yeah. Like sober meaning all soberness, not just like alcohol sober, but sober thinking, right? I think that's a good thing to aspire to if you're in a leadership role within a church. Absolutely.
So from that point, I had this encounter with God. Still to this day, don't fully know what to call it other than an encounter with the spirit of the fear of the Lord. And it led me in this path of like, holy cow, if you're this big, if you have this. And I struggled in my 21-year-old mind of what does it mean to be called? And I like, God, are you calling me to ministry? I mean, I probably, from the age of 21 to 23, I probably asked God if he was calling me to ministry more. Finally, I was just so frustrated with not feeling like I was getting an answer that I'm like, God, I don't know if you're calling me or not, but I choose to choose you. And so if you're not calling me to serve you, you're just going to have to put up with me until I die.
Like, piano on my head.
Like I hope I don't mess things up. But, you know, little did I know that we're all called to ministry.
Yeah.
That was the thing. It wasn't that if I was called to ministry, it was what was I called to do was the far better question.
Yeah.
And so,
I would say contemplating it so long and taking it so seriously might lead you to say than you were called.
Yeah.
Like it's the guys that are like, oh, I'm a pastor, I'm a leader, I'm a this. And it's like no prayer, no nothing. Like, maybe not. Maybe contemplate a little bit. Think about it. It's a serious thing, right? Like being a shepherd.
Yeah.
You actually read the Bible. Man, it is a high standard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I never went to ministry school, seminary.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely merit to that. It would have killed me. My personality type, it would have killed me. And so what I did is I just paid really good attention. I had Bible teachers that taught every single Sunday. Isn't that wild? Like every single Sunday across America, you can get seminary level
teaching.
Not every church, but
true.
many churches across America, you can get seminary level education 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And that's wild. And it's it's insane, but that's true. Like you can get seminary level education 52 weeks a year for free.
Yeah.
All across some place close to your house.
Yeah.
So I just started paying attention in church, which is wild. I actually read my Bible, which is wild.
Yeah.
And when you read your Bible, even the things that they say, when you read it, they hit different. And I remember reading for the first time when Jesus, the Pharisees try to get him in a trap, like, what's the most important commandment? He's like, not only will I answer that, I'm going to expound on it. To love the Lord your God, and then he moves on to love your neighbor as yourself, and then we know it goes into this parable. And I remember that verse when I read it for the first time, I'm like, this is a compass.
Yeah.
Like Jesus is giving us a compass.
It's a guide,
of how we live. And that launched me into ministry. So I became a self-declared urban missionary, similar to Paul had much more education than I did, but sort of like who sent Paul? Paul was sent by the Holy Spirit, and with a body of believers that affirmed that. And so, I was at a church up in Michigan that affirmed it and launched into urban ministry later, similar to Paul, got credentialed in ministry. So, the right hand of fellowship within our movement. But we served as urban missionaries for about 6 years in Toledo before we launched the church, and then launched the church, pastored that for 9 years, handed that over to Pastor Trevor, and now my wife still leads urban mission stuff. She actually accidentally planted a church, and I've got just like everyone, I've got my different varying degrees of women in ministry, and they've changed throughout the years in many different directions. But I can't deny that there's people in Toledo that are learning about Jesus, that have gotten saved and baptized, and that are gathering together that wouldn't have if my wife hadn't have been a prayer warrior in a neighborhood that literally nobody wants to go into.
Right.
So if you don't think women should be pastors, please come into my neighborhood and start churches and getting my people saved. We would welcome you to do that. Yeah. So gladly hand over all the reins.
Yeah, I won't deny it, that there's a sect of, especially within my community, especially in like the Reformed right too, where it's like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, but they're not doing anything about it. You know what I mean? They love to be like.
Here's the truth. I'd actually probably agree with them on most of the stuff. Yeah. And then at the same time, I'm like, but what are you gonna do with the people that are getting saved? And literally, we're baptizing people. We're seeing demons being cast out of people, delivered from drugs. Sure. All these things. It's like, man, I want to believe here, and then there's also fruit here. If you can marry the two, someone lead the way.
I mean, my answer to that would probably be, a sovereign will versus a prescriptive will. Like, God can and does use anything to save. Yeah. He's in the heavens. He does as he pleases. I know someone who got saved at a mega church Easter service where they were playing Highway to Hell as the opening song, right? And do I prescribe that in your church liturgy you should be playing Highway to Hell on Easter? No, I would say probably not. And look, I'm very liberal on my music too. Believe me, I'm a big Led Zeppelin fan, so no judgment to classic rock. I'm just saying I think there's a difference in a church service outside of, right?
Yeah, I would actually
but-
argue that that's not a church service. I would
Right,
argue
but my point is-
that is a very godly thing of evangelism and using the remains of a Christian culture that we have
Yeah.
to bring people in and preach a gospel message to
Sure.
them. But I would not say that that is a fellowship of the believers.
Yeah, an ecclesiastical gathering of believers. My point being is do I doubt the validity of God replacing their heart of stone with a heart of flesh and all that? Absolutely not. The Lord can save any way he wants. Now, I would say there's a prescriptive way that he wants his church body to be built up and to look in certain roles for certain people. And that's why, that's probably how I would answer you if you're saying, well, what about all these people? Look at, if the Lord can use an ass, right? Like a donkey, he can certainly use me or anything else. Also, too, I would say, as someone who comes, my soteriology being more Calvinistic, is Calvinistic, and going, gosh, that lifts a lot off my shoulders. All I have to do is preach the gospel. I don't do any tricks. I don't look a certain way. I don't need to speak smoothly. I don't have to have a light show and a fog machine and go, maybe this will convince someone. God says, you preach the good news, I draw, and I do the rest. And it's been very, for the last 15 or 18 years of my life, it's so taken a weight off of my shoulders as like, oh, I don't have to out-argue or out-debate an atheist or a Muslim. I just have to preach the gospel and go, this is what the word of God says, and let the seed be planted. Christ does the rest, right? So I also, that for me, that has shifted my whole view of even like what church is. I would probably think you and I would probably land in the same bucket of we're probably not attending a church where we have fog machines, light shows, people coming from zip lines. We'd go, this isn't for us, right? Yep. I'd also say, man, I've been to a Catholic service and I go, boy, I love the pomp and circumstance, but boy, is this stale. Boy, is this void of any type of the spirit of the living God, right? And some of my Reform bros go, oh, you said the word spirit. Are you charismatic now? I go, no. Hold on, right? So I fall into this weird place too, to where I'm at a church right now where it's probably evangelical in the sense that we have full band and, in our liturgy is probably a little more low church. We have a time of confession and things like that, but it's not like, you know what I mean? But it's not like we're dressing up any certain way, but we're also Westminster and Presbyterian and Presbyterian, not Lesbiterian, not those, right? And we left the PCA over Revoice. So we're like an independent Presbyterian church, which is ironic because we don't have no presbytery. You know what I mean? So I'm at a church where it's kind of melded these two things together, and it's kind of fit for me because I find myself kind of having a foot in both worlds. All day long, I'm a Westminsterian. I agree with that almost 99% of that confession. Right up into wrestling with infant baptism over the last 8 or 9 years and falling under. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with bringing children into the covenant. I don't believe it saves, like our Lutheran brothers do. But it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm kind of in a church where we kind of have a foot in both. We have a lot of people raising their hands. Now, you probably won't see any, in my church, I've never seen, and I don't think you'll see any like speaking in tongues out loud like that. I think the majority of our church believe the way I do, where I think it's a real physical language, like it was at Pentecost, to where they were like, how is that African understanding that Jewish man? And I really think it's linked to Babel and kind of the fullness of the Holy Spirit. And that's a whole nother episode, right? But I think it's so beautiful when you actually see what was going on at Pentecost, when you go back to, I'm going to separate the languages, but the Holy Spirit unifies. And it was a real, like, I understood you understood. But anyway, I'm getting off track. But
let me touch on that real quick, because I do think that, is there false prophecy? Obvious question. Yes. Is there false teaching?
Sure.
Could there be false speaking in tongues?
Sure.
I mean, I think that's, I'm in the charismatic world.
Yeah.
And I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Charismania. I've seen it all.
Sure.
And so, it's, if the single thing that for whatever reason many charismatics just turn off, it's like a switch that they turn off, is discernment. And it's probably the worst thing you can do, because it's really easy in a service to just because
can I say though, to give love to those brothers and sisters is really only just in that one area of the discernment. I've known some very wise and discerning very charismatic people who have spoke deeply into my life, but just on that one kind of little doctrinal issue, I'm here, and that's fine. I have those too. I don't want to say blind spot. It sounds negative, but I'm saying alcohol was one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you would have talked to me 10 years ago, you would have called me crazy. I would have called you, not crazy, but we would have disagreed, and I went, you don't know what he's talking about. And now here we are 10 years later, and I'm going, I'm doing what you're doing. And I switched on that. And you go, what's, so it's like, I don't know. I just want to be kind to those, to my tongue-speaking brothers and sisters in the Lord. Those
are my people. Let me speak harshly to them. Well, flick the discernment switch back on. You can call it out. You can call the bullshit out if you need to call the bullshit out.
There you go. Okay, so we can. What I'm saying is,
you don't have to be.
If we're
you can be nice.
If we're
I
in separate
can be a
camps,
little savage.
we're allowed to be meaner to our own people. Is that, you know what I'm saying? If we're in separate camps, that was my point. But yeah, so there can be craziness with it. But I'm just saying, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just saying, when I saw kind of the fullness of what the Holy Spirit did at Pentecost, and there being real physical language, and then even hearing people coming, like I went into China, and this came over me, and I started speaking, and the Chinese people are like, oh, we didn't know you spoke Mandarin. And you're like, what? And they're like communicating the gospel in their real physical language. I would lean more towards, I think that's what tongues are. And I think they are still, it's still happening today. Like, I'm a cessationist, but people don't understand what that actually means. They think you believe in no gifts, no tongues. That's actually not the reformed kind of historical version of what cessationism means. It means a real physical language, and it differentiates between miracles and actually signs and wonders. I think that's the difference. I don't know how we got on this topic, but I want to get back to where you're at. So you come from a more Pentecost charismatic background when you're saved. The church kind of has those undertones, although I don't think when I was attending our church, I didn't see anything wild or crazy where I would have been like, call in the discernment police.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You're always going to have anytime you're a light in the darkness, you're going to attract bugs.
Yeah.
So we had some weird stuff for sure.
But every church does. I mean, and no matter where you go. So what I wanted to get to with this very short 45-minute intro, we'll get to it. What I really wanted to get to was kind of your journey. Like, is there some things that you have changed on? Like, I have, in the 10 years that we haven't talked, I've changed on some things. I think it's part of a sanctification process for every single person. On secondary issues, I absolutely have softened to where it's like, we can disagree, and boy, am I glad you're a brother in the Lord, right? I was just talking to a mutual friend of ours, Savannah Martin. She was out at the campsite I was at for a couple of days, and we were talking, and I introduced her to the language of, like, in the Reformed world, the cage stage, right? Of just like, you need to be in a cage because you're in everyone's face. You don't know the doctrines of grace and predestination, the sovereignty of God. And you eventually want to get to what we call the sage stage, right? Which hopefully by the Lord's work, I'm edging closer to that, to where you go, yeah, we can have some very serious secondary issue outside, like you were saying, outside of the orthodoxy, and have those talks. But now I'm seeing some of those secondary issues are getting a little more important when you start looking at, like, the political stuff, right? Like, I'm seeing, for instance, and I don't know, we can jump right into this, but for instance, I'm seeing, like, even like you said, the female headship and female pastors within the church. I'm seeing that spill over now into the political argument of, you have some pastors and some secular people going, well, should we revisit the 19th Amendment? Should we be talking about voting rights for only landowners and all these things? 5 years ago, anyone said that, everyone would have flipped out. Mm-hmm. Now we've gone, the pendulum, whatever way you want to say it swung, or whatever analogy you want, it is such Wild West fertile ground right now for ideas and politics.
I love it.
People are going, wait a minute, maybe we rethink this. Maybe we rethink that.
Yep.
I mean, you've got people in Congress actually talking about, well, what about income tax? Here in the state of Michigan and Ohio, why are we paying property tax? Isn't that, renting your land? And I go, I've been talking about this for 20 years. Yeah. We finally got, like, politicians talking about these crazy big ideas. I don't know if it's part of, like, the intellectual web, or, like, part of just so much, people have so much access to so much communication. Like, has that affected your journey? And where are some things
100%.
Like where you've said, I've remained consistent, but I've also maybe been looking at these things and going, let's talk about them.
Several things happened simultaneously. COVID was the great shifter.
Yeah.
And
For everyone.
yeah, so in January of 2020, right before COVID, I had an experience with the Lord that the Lord told me that my season at City Light would come to an end and that I needed to kind of shift. And then COVID happens, and like Greg, I kind of forgot about what God said in January. And so by March, I'm having the time of my life. We're doing all kinds of outreach stuff. We had closed the church down, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to sit at home. We turned our whole sanctuary into like an emergency distribution center, and we were doing church services out in the park. I got a call from the mayor saying, "Don't do church service in the park," and I'm like, "I'm gonna do church service in the park."
Was this still Wade then? Was he still there?
Yeah, that was just Wade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it wasn't Wade directly; it was his chief of staff that called me.
No, I get it. A heavier Wade, but yeah.
Yeah. So. I was having the time of my life, and then
I just that's literally how the conversation went. I think like, don't do it. I'm going to do it. Click.
I can't. I mean, it was. Yeah. That's not much of an exaggeration. There may have been a few more words, but the abundance of caution, right? And
sure.
I was very lenient on our magistrates, way more than I should have been. Assuming that they were doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing.
Sure.
So major shifts in my life. The first half of COVID was a blast. I was having the time of my life. And then you get to the later half of COVID when it's like, we're starting to talk about, it's an election year. George Floyd happens. We're starting to get into vaccinations.
The riots and stuff, vaccines. Yeah. People losing their jobs and stuff. Yeah.
And it went from being a blast to an absolute living hell as a pastor, pastoring.
Oh, sure. As a pastor. Yeah.
Was a living hell. Again, I was under the mindset that like the government is trying the best that they can. And so, I'm very more sympathetic to the state, which makes me even cringe saying that right now.
Yeah, I think we always were kind of on opposites. I was probably too far one way. You were maybe too far the other way.
You were very libertarian, and I would have described myself as a centrist.
I was like, they're all trying to screw us.
Which, this is going to sound bad. I'm just going to say it.
No,
I actually have more respect for insane liberal progressives than I do for centrists. Because they believe in something.
They
believe in something. And I believed in wherever the middle was at the time.
Yeah.
And
it's tough because if you're something to everyone, you're nothing to no one.
It was like whatever was slightly right of NPR was where I was.
Sure.
But
it seems like a very reasonable position. Until you start digging down into things and go, what's really going on here?
When you're trying to start a new church and you're trying to bring as many people, and you have an I personality that is more like, I just want people to come and let's have a big, spiritual gathering and party, and the more the merrier. You're like, what is the thing that is going to make the least amount of people upset?
Yeah.
And so there is that external pressure that I don't think everyone falls into that, but a good amount of pastors do. A amount of pastors do, and I definitely was one of them that sort of was high in sight. When I look back, I realized that I actually at the time felt trapped.
Okay.
That I had to broadcast a message that was centrist, and I literally felt the pressure to communicate the most centrist message versus the message that was the most truth or the most beneficial to society.
Was this like a thing like, I'm doing this as a pastor, and then at night you'd go home and go, man, you're wrestling with it, or you're like,
no, I didn't know at the time.
Okay. So it wasn't like a conscious thing. Like, I need to be this for the church or the people or the ministry. And then, in personal time going, oh man, I'm having issue with this or something that we're doing.
I'm sure there was times where I had a belief.
Okay.
And then I thought to myself, I can never say that.
Okay.
I'm sure that happened. I can't think specifically, but I don't think that was the general.
Okay. That's what I was,
And I am at a stage in my life where I just don't give a shit what people think about me. No, I take that back. I do. Everyone does. People that say that are lying. Everyone does, because we're social creatures. I've just moved that way down.
And the group has gotten smaller.
On the way that
my group is very small of people I care if they care about me.
Yeah.
Which I think it should be.
Yeah. And
like immediate family, wife, children, maybe a few friends. Outside of that.
What rose to the top?
Yeah.
A few things, not just truth telling, but societal saving wisdom, knowledge, calling out stuff that is destroying society. That for me moved way to the top.
Okay.
So a couple things happened during COVID. Number one, I'll just speed up the story. I handed over the church to now Pastor Trevor. He's doing an amazing job. I moved into a different role that is less concern, that is less requiring what other people think. Still do, and I've taken some heat for it. Like I've had negative things based on my current position on where I stand on things. But so I'm in this place. I'm not pastoring anymore, so I don't feel this external pressure. I'm like, I should get a hobby. Like the church had always been everything.
Sure.
And got enamored with Bitcoin. I'm wearing my Bitcoin shirt right now.
Okay.
And that was I'm not joking. It sounds so strange, but it was like this breath of fresh air. I feel like God sort of led me there, and I'm not making a statement about, but it just was like my personality, I think, and the group of people. And that's when I'm like, libertarian ideas.
Can I just tell you, you must have really been excited about that, because I had people that I didn't even know you mention off, like in the last 10 years, mention just randomly, oh, this guy that I'm friends with on Facebook explained to me Blake, and I go, who? George Williams. And I had to like go on Facebook and go, wait, is this the same George Williams that I know? And people are like following and like, he's educating me on this. And so I'm just telling you that to validate, like, whatever you were doing, it was like affecting people, because that and the political predictions.
Yeah,
people loved your political because you're always accurate on them,
dude. Look,
and I'm not often, and I'm in politics, and I'm going, how is he figuring this out? He's spending way too much time on polls or something.
A back patter, but that's one claim to fame is the 2024 election. I nailed it. Now I've made tons of political predictions that, dude, I can't. My brother teased me because he's like, George Williams says it's going to be whatever till the electoral. Dude, I got it down to the exact
I was off by
number.
like 9, and he messages me the next day, and he's like, nope, George was closer.
Oh. I could tell you my secret formula, but I don't. We'll have to do it off of air.
But anyway, so you said let's get a hobby. One of them being Bitcoin.
Yeah, dude.
I need to hook you up with Jordan Bush. Thank God for Bitcoin. You ever met those guys?
I've met him out in L.A.
Awesome guys.
I've messaged him on Twitter, and we've gone back and forth.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, we got deep into that, and less about, it's like, oh, Federal Reserve's evil. I mean, just pure like ultra libertarian. So my values,
or I would argue you're a Christian.
Or I'm a Christian. No,
10 Commandments, usury, economic slavery. God doesn't like these things.
I describe myself as a monetary libertarian, but I'm not really a libertarian in any other ways. Yeah. I do think a reduction, a limit, a hard limit in the size of government would be fantastic. But I probably shied away from using that term over the last 5 years, just because you go, ultimate libertarianism is a form of crazy anarchy. Oh yeah,
and it's really almost if you're just a really true libertarian, it's almost a sign of immaturity, I feel like. And I used to identify that way.
I remember even just kind of being within the libertarian crowd and thinking like, well, has any libertarian society ever survived?
No, it's kind of like that utopia of like socialism and communism. Yeah. Libertarians kind of live in that same.
When you understand, who wrote The Anatomy of the State? Murray Rothbard.
I've never read that.
Wrote The Anatomy of the State. Fantastic book. Okay. And he is more of an economic libertarian, but he ultimately explained that the state is inevitable. Like it's an evil. We don't like it, but
It's a
Like
necessary
a
evil.
stateless society will be conquered by another state. Like
Sure.
if you don't have like strong defense, you will be conquered.
Yeah.
And so a
It's a
libertarian
natural order of
society,
things, yeah.
a libertarian society is a pending society to be conquered by
Sure.
something and someone else,
Yeah.
because it cannot be organized. Look at the Libertarian Party. It is a clown show.
Yeah.
Like my local libertarian that was running in Toledo, like dude literally campaigned wearing prosthetic breasts. It is a clown show.
Sure. Sure.
So sorry to any of you libertarians. You're going to hate me by the time, but like,
No, I'm agreeing with you on that. And I would even say, I've got a little libertarian in me, but I think I was saying what you're saying, where probably a little more economic libertarian.
I'm not even saying economic. I'm saying monetary.
Oh, monetary. Okay.
Libertarian.
Yeah.
Because I think that even economic libertarianism could be now again, before we had a conversation, we were talking about crony capitalism.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I would love nothing more than the polarization in our country. Instead of being like left versus right, I would love it to be right versus like libertarian, so that we can land somewhere in the middle would be fantastic. Because I would not consider myself a full-on economic libertarian, but definitely like we need to get away from crony capitalism.
I think that's the only reason why they keep dividing left and right with social issues, is so you just are not focused on the crony capitalism, because that's what really is the engine for the elites in the country. And here's the funny thing: we've been noticing, you want to touch on this too, political wise, is how the far right and far left are kind of coming,
dude,
so close.
Dude,
you're like,
so
wait a minute,
wild.
are you guys a uniparty now?
Oh, it's so wild.
And
when Bernie Sanders is coming out like in support of Thomas Massey, you're like,
what's going
what
on?
universe do I live in?
Yeah, I love Thomas Massey. I don't like you, but you're right. No,
dude, there is some brilliant overlap there, and But
it lets you know that there's a lot of issues that the two fringes agree on. And even I would say, as you move in, if it's a flat line, you move in probably 70% of people on some core issues. But if everyone agrees, then you could probably do something about it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sounding a little Alex Jones here or whatever, but I truly do believe there are a group of bureaucrats, elites, and tech billionaires, and these people that just go, division is kind of good for business. Because apathy is like, and I've noted, and you probably have too, city councils, local, state, like politicians love apathy. I'm just not going to vote. I'm not going to go turn out. I'm not going to get involved. Don't care. Boy, can you get a lot of the stuff done that you want to do for yourself when no one is watching or no one really cares. And that has been a theme to where I've probably went, like I said, less libertarian and went, we do need maybe to return to some structured, Christian nationalist law. Not that I'm a Christian. Well, I would say I am a Christian nationalist, but there's 1,900 definitions of Christian nationalism right now.
I am a Christian nationalist, and I am probably 800 of those 900 definitions. Whichever one you want to throw on me, likely I will adopt.
Yeah. Just at the very basic definition of should our nation reflect Christ, I go, yeah, and his laws, and it's really crazy because this isn't a new concept either. Like, as a Westminsterian or someone who adheres to the Westminster, you look at question 19 and what is the role of government. We would be like a real world theonomist, meaning we take the common sense of the old law and we incorporate it into the new, right? We don't have parapets around our roofs anymore, but we have building codes. Why? Because we love our neighbor and we don't want them to fall off the edge of the roof and then us be convicted of murder. So it's this weird thing to where if you go back to the founding fathers, they really were kind of a little bit of taking the Mosaic law and instituting it almost as theonomy. Now, of course, Magna Carta and all that stuff. But what my point is like, the founding of this country was probably closer to that than most people want to realize. 13 colonies, 11 of them were Protestant. The one Catholic had to be voted in. We're like, well, hold on. We can't have a Catholic colony. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why King George called the revolution the Great Presbyterian Revolt. I mean, we were over here going, hey, if you want to be a colony, you've got to have in your constitution, what denomination you are, that you're Christian. Actually, there's a book behind you called The Government and God that a friend of mine wrote, and it's unbelievable. It goes through the letters and the drafts and the correspondence and the founding documents. And anyone who tells you that this wasn't a Christian nation founded, and they go, oh, there were a bunch of deists, like 3 or 4 were. But out of the 40 founding fathers,
Look, can we just even have deists?
They believe in a God.
Yeah, I'm not saying that would be best, but if you're saying like that, because the reality is even within the Christians, like Christianity today, I don't know why they keep pushing out like Christian nationalism is so evil. Like, to object Christian nationalists is to say that we desire our culture and our society to be secular.
Yeah. Well, I think because a lot of Christians were kind of fed the lie and believed in neutrality, right? Like, well, the government can just be neutral.
I believed that.
Yeah, and it's like, well, no, you're
sick.
Either for or against Christ, right?
Yeah,
you're for or against Satan. Yeah.
Because humans are spiritual.
Yeah.
Humans are religious.
Yeah.
And so when you create, and this is what America did, is it handcuffed Christianity and then it created an open vacuum of ideas. So we will punish Christianity and not even other religions, because you see a Jewish supremacy has risen up within society. You see whole cities in our country that have become Muslim and organized around Muslim law. Dude, if Christians would act more like Muslims,
in that aspect,
our nation would be saved. If we just assert a little bit of saying no, just like we do with our children. The problem is we don't treat our society like the way that we love our children. Like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not going to bring in that demonic rap music into our house.
Right.
Like,
we're not going to erect a 100-foot statue of some Indian god or something, or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we created an entire vacuum. Yeah. And then what fills that vacuum? You handcuff Christianity, you create a vacuum, and every demonic ideology fills that vacuum. Sure. And then we call it a neutral ground. Yeah.
Or the state just becomes the god, right? Like if you take God out of a country, it's not a vacuum. Something has to replace it.
But it has to replace it by force.
Yeah.
A state can only fill that vacuum by force.
Oh, I think they've done a good job. They know where you are, what you eat, what you read. They can read your thoughts. The state wants to be God. Yeah. Ultimately. Omnipresent, omnipotent, everywhere.
You're approaching a technocracy,
technocracy, whatever.
Yeah. So it's technology.
So wait, let me jump back a minute. So what definition, when you say I'm a Christian nationalist, and I would say I'm a Christian nationalist, but I would say I felt like I was one 10 years ago before we even had a name for it. What would your definition of that be? When you say, if someone says, what is a Christian nationalist to you?
Whatever Christians believed 100 years ago is what I am, which now what a normal Christian believed 100 years ago is now far right, which is wild. Like, no, I'm just a regular American, just 100 years. My ideas are just 100 years old. Yeah. But I'm also, and I'm not, I haven't fully articulated and figured it out yet.
Sure.
But there is kind of this romanticism within the Christian nationalist movement that looks at the founding of the nation, which I think is really important. Sure. But the hunger is to return to that. Yeah. And I don't think that that's possible.
I don't think you want to either, because even the founding fathers knew that their documents they were signing were progressive. Yeah. Like there was a debate. That's a great historical lesson too, of a debate of the Declaration of Independence, all men created equal. And it was a concession with the hopes of one day we would get to ending slavery. And it was literally a political concession. Like, we can't just make everyone free. Yeah. We're trying to found a nation. They might have believed it with their hearts, but they said to create a country as of right now and unify militarily. Yes, we're saying all men created equal, but they look to the future of that being, abolition taking place. Yeah. Not through politics, by the way. Through the church is what they were really looking for.
They set up the framework.
Yeah.
For lots of amazing things.
So I don't want to go back to 1776 either. I think that's a little farsighted and immature.
And I'm going to say something that people aren't going to, it's uncomfortable to think about, but I believe that the future is not because I want it to be, but I'm a realist. Yeah. That the future is going to be more authoritarian. It just is.
Oh, 100%.
And so
technology will make that a lot easier too.
And so if we, if we reversed and went to the founding nation and there was 4 of us sitting at the table and one of us was a psychopath and you laid a gun at the table, the 3 like rational people could be like, let's just move the gun, away from the psychopath and us order society, within the 3 of us to make it as neutral of a ground. Now it's reversed. There are 3 psychopaths at the table and there's only one sane person. And is it the Christian obligation for the sane person to fight the 3 other people to take the gun away by force, knowing that if he loses control of that gun, that the psychopaths murder everyone?
Right.
And so the idea,
it's a crazy philosophical argument that,
dude,
we're actually facing in real time now.
It's not a comfortable one, not one that I desire, but it's like the writing is on the wall saying that something is going to be authoritarian going forward. And what ideology do you want? Do you want a gay one? Do you want a communist one?
Right.
Do you want a Muslim one?
Sure.
Because those are your, or you can have a Christian one.
Most of the country that's secular or pagan doesn't understand that they've been coasting off of Christendom for about the last couple hundred years. And you can get
they've been borrowing the morality,
right,
the moral framework
from
Christianity. I've been saying this very same thing.
Yeah.
They've been borrowing the moral framework from a past generation. But the farther we get from that moral framework, the more
we're coasting and then we're slowing down.
Yeah. The more abstract it becomes.
Yeah. It's a weird, abstract's a good word. Like you're getting farther away from the source. So more things are permissible, more things are arguable. Men can have periods now, facetiously I'm saying. So it's like one of these things where like, I blame, we can talk about atheists, secularists, pagans, right? Heretics, whatever. The American Western church has failed the American people for the last 75 or 80 years.
100%.
We've had weak, soft Christians. I'm not just going to put it on pastors. I'm talking about people who sit in the pew or the seat every week. That's the only hour and a half or 2 hours of church they get. They're not meditating on the word. I know people right now, George, that are 50, 60, 70 years old, and they can't really tell me past their kind of talking points of what they've been sitting in church the last 30 years, and no exploration, no true and look, this sounds like I'm puffing myself up like I got it all figured out. I don't. I'm saying no even really desire to learn of the deeper things of God, to know who he is, to know who you are in juxtaposition to him, like anything. And then watered down sermons and kind of placating to the sheep from pastors. And you go, well, no wonder we've gotten in this position. We've given up everything. Yeah. I mean, 75 years ago, you could go to a Catholic organization, and if you were out of work, they would put you up, house you, feed you, train you, and go, now get back on your feet in 2 weeks, you have a job.
Yeah.
Now we just go, let's let the government do it. You know what I mean? The churches have agreed, we still want our 501(c) status, but we don't really want to get into the, the actual housing of people. And now I'm sure there's some churches and organizations that do that. But my point is like,
well, no, you have to compete with the government to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to fight for donations when they have an endless money printer.
And, I've never thought of it that way, but yeah.
And so the idea that we socialized everything actually put churches out of business of being any sense of social welfare.
Yeah, which is sad because it's such a good, you see those memes online years ago too, where it was like Christ said, like, you help the person, you don't go to the government and force the government to help someone, right? And there's such a beautiful thing about charity from the cheerfulness of your own heart, from a church providing it instead of the government mandating it or the government doing it, which when we say the government doing it, they're just putting a gun to your head and go, give me your money so I can redistribute it to who I want for what I want, right?
Yeah.
And now we're so
horribly and inefficiently and allowing them to be
but we're so far away from
unaccountable to anything.
We don't care about the income tax that taxes labor, which is a form of economic slavery. We go, well, let's argue about what the money. We don't want it to go for abortions, which is good. We don't. But that's what the church is stuck on arguing about. That's how far they wade into politics is something like that. When I sit back and go, gosh, but we've lost our responsibility as a church to be, the government really doesn't need to be doing any of this. Like, Maybe a little bit of, we could talk about that. I'm softening on some big things that states and communities can't do. Obviously there's a role of federal government there, but I think it's very, very minimal.
I'll tell you a little bit more of my journey.
Yeah, please do. Sorry, I'm getting off track here.
Well, no, it goes right into everything. So a little bit more of my journey. I found myself. So now I'm detached from being a pastor.
Okay.
I'm like in this place where I'm allowed to be free thinker and look at things from any perspective. But I found myself becoming extremely agitated.
Okay.
Frustrated. Like, why is everything around me? I wouldn't say I was like a full-on doomer, but a little bit. Like,
right.
Okay, everything is in a trajectory in a very, very bad direction. Yeah. And just angry. Why does society benefit everyone but straight white males?
Yeah.
And I mean, even to the point where my wife's like, what is going on with you?
Sure.
Those I remember a particular car ride and I'm frustrated and I'm,
the wives are the closest to us. They always know when we're having the internal.
Yeah, she's like, what is going on with you? We had the summer of 2024, 2025, even, rather, this was months before a life-changing event happened. And, I wish that the life-changing event only happened to me. Maybe I don't know how I feel about it, but,
what was the life-changing event? Are you getting to that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
Scrolling Twitter, X or whatever. And live in front of my face, I watched Charlie Kirk get assassinated, a bullet ripped through his neck or whatever the new conspiracy theory, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is
that video was so visceral.
It changed me. I wept for 3 days. I didn't think about Charlie Kirk before. Like, he was the guy that was like the got you guy, on YouTube. That's all I knew. He was the got you guy, and I was a big RFK guy. He was the guy that kind of helped coordinate RFK and Trump. And so I'm like, cool, that's all I knew about Charlie. And then, like, I watched him get shot, and for 3 days I wept, and over a guy I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
Like something
I think a lot of people
happened to me, Greg.
Had that, yeah.
And what happened to me was the best thing I can describe it as. I don't want to say I don't want to over spiritualize it.
Yeah.
I'm a spiritual like, this is the only framework I have.
Yeah.
Is as though God took the scales off of Paul's eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I felt quite literally, I could see things that I couldn't see before.
Yeah.
So I'm in this place of very frustrated to, like, in a moment, over a process of about 3 days, like, everything made sense to me before. Where before I would have said the church needs to stay out of politics. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, politics is downstream from the church, and what the church did,
politics needs to stay out of the church.
They just sat by and let whatever shit coming downstream go on through into society. Like, we were the net.
Yeah,
and we're just like, whatever. We will back down and back off of everything, and I believed that. And so there's been a bit of a repentant. Sorry for cussing so much, but like,
no, you're fine.
The truth is like, I'm passionate about this, and sometimes, like, words are important for extra severity to 100%. Know how much I feel this. So
look, I'm not an avid cusser, but sidetrack. That's a whole issue with, like, there's bad words. Stop. If I'm using it, like, you shouldn't use a non-cuss word pejoratively towards someone as a believer.
Look,
to describe something and to use it and to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm a little too creative to go, oh, that word is banned
Here's my goal. I'm just going to be a little less edgy than Martin Luther. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. Okay, I won't surpass Martin Luther. I will just be a little
Please don't.
less.
We don't want you to be an anti-Semite.
than Martin Luther.
Just say shit. Don't start talking about the Jews. All right,
dude. Like the thing that you know what he used to call the Pope?
Besides the Antichrist, I mean, they all did.
Pope fart ass. He loved poop jokes. Like Martin Luther was big in it. He called Pope fart ass.
Yeah.
Still, look, I'm not above fart jokes. That still makes me laugh.
I mean, fart ass is pretty good. My point is like there's a difference between if you were to use the word poop versus shit. Shit elicits a different response to me and a more severe one. So isn't that the better word?
Yeah.
I'm not calling you a shithead.
No.
I'm not right. Like, I don't know. There's just
Paul uses it. He says, I count it all as rubbish. And that word rubbish is not some garbage that we throw into the bin.
Yeah.
Like the literal translation was vulgar form of animal feces.
Yeah.
Paul counts it all as shit.
Yeah. Or the Lord saying your righteousness is like menstrual rags, and we clean it up to go, it's like dirty laundry. It's dirty rags. You go, well, he's making a very vivid image there of what was going on and how personal hygiene and how nasty it was. But so anyway, so we see Charlie Kirk.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people had, maybe not as visceral as yours, but a lot of people went, oh my. And I went, for me, really quickly, I went from knowing he was there, knowing what he was doing, checking in every once in a while, to seeing that and feeling a deep sense of loss of like, but he was the bulwark of that thing that I didn't really pay attention. I wasn't a huge follower. I wasn't like hanging on his every word. I just knew that guy's out there. He's doing it. I've seen him preach the gospel. I know he's solid. We might not agree on everything, every little thing. And then you just go, oh, wow. Well, if they're good, I say they. That's where but if someone's going to take him out over that, we're all in deep trouble.
Here's why I have no problem with saying they. Because the response was good.
Yeah.
That was the response.
Yeah.
And at that point it becomes a they. There is a not small portion of our society that celebrated his murder.
Sure.
And
public execution.
When I looked at Charlie Kirk on that screen, I didn't see some guy that I have nothing in common with. I saw a white, straight Christian male that advocated better. Yeah. That advocated for better for the exact same things that I advocate for.
Yeah.
And they assassinated him and celebrated his death. And two things happened. I could see things that I couldn't see before. And the other thing let me know that I can no longer stay silent. And I'm going to be messy. Lord willing, I have as big of an impact as him, but likely I won't. You know, we'll see what happens. But so I saw instantaneously that Charlie was not in the political sphere, that he was in the Christian sphere, and he was exercising his Christian work of going to make disciples of the nations, making America, discipling America, and moving it towards Christian values. And here's the big thing that sort of was like the click in my brain.
Okay.
Is I had always believed Christians should just kind of maybe not stay out of politics, but just shouldn't make that the main thing. Yeah. The reality is that when we look at Jesus's time, his nemesis, those that he found opposition against, were the Pharisees. And the Pharisees, we look at through the lens of like they were the religious elite, as though there was some other elite, as though there was like a counterbalance in some other area. No, they were the sort of authority over the people during that time.
People don't realize that religion and politics were one.
Yes.
Before we had this separation thing.
To the point where those Pharisees are in collusion with Herod, who was a Jew. Yeah. So, I mean, they're working. So there was a state level.
They were the political and religious powers.
Yes.
Of the time. Yeah.
And so Jesus is pushing back. And I would even say, like, they controlled culture. They controlled how the banks and where culture was allowed to permit to go, what was acceptable, what was unacceptable, from a legal and a spiritual framework. And
which makes the overturning in the synagogue even that much more potent when you go, oh, he's messing with the banking system too.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, as a Bitcoiner, that was our favorite.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you're flipping over the money changers.
Get this fiat money out of here. No.
Serious. So this understanding that like the Pharisees controlled the cultural narrative and what people were allowed to think.
Okay.
So in America, we're not a religious society anymore. It'd be great if we were. We're not. We're a secular society, which I would argue actually creates a religious vacuum. We're still religious. It's just varying. Yeah. My point is that when we look at Jesus bumping against the Pharisees, from my old mindset was this is religion bumping against religion. And so if I, as a Christian, I need to make sure that I need to find the Pharisaical doctrines of, what other Christians are believing. Yeah. And so I looked at the idea that the Pharisees are somehow within the religious sphere.
Yeah.
Not the societal sphere. And so what Charlie was doing quite literally was going into the places where the Pharisees held the thought.
Sure.
Which is the universities.
Yep.
And begin to disassemble some of those thinking. And the reality is that when you are religious, you can't speak a religious language to someone who's non-religion or an ideology that's because it gets shut down. So if it is like when Charlie would engage in the Pharisees of our time, which were the universities and the college professors and that kind of framework, he couldn't come at it from a religious angle the way that Jesus was able to. He had to come at it from the same language that they were using, from a rational and a place of reason, all grounded. It's all biblically based, but he had to come at it from a rational, reasonable point of view.
Sure.
All for the sake of saving society. And that's the other thing that instantly I became aware of. I had always had this framework. I just didn't have it all plugged in correctly because I'd always cared about societal change. I want to see Toledo saved, 500,000. I want to see them all saved, right? That is societal change. But I didn't understand that actually caring for society isn't just for their salvation, but caring for society means that I don't permit a gay pride parade to walk through my city. Why?
Right.
Because it is wicked and it's vile, but not only from a religious point of view, but actually for the betterment of my neighbors, that when we have an increase in homosexuality and gay marriage, that actually deteriorates the family and marriage and what it means to be married. So you can come at it not even from a religious standpoint, is that the just practical perversion of the mind is a net negative on all society.
Sure.
I don't even have to look at it through a biblical lens.
Sociological or whatever.
That it is a net negative for all of society. So and that sort of like completely like,
yeah,
because that was always my turnoff in the culture wars. I'm like, okay, I know that homosexuality is bad, but the only thing that Christians have is like, it's bad because God says so. And the rest of society is like, we don't care what God says. We don't even believe in it. It's not even a factor in our decision making. Yeah. Our arguments have been mute this whole time. Our arguments have been mute.
Yeah.
And so like the whole understanding of like that, this is why I believe like Christian nationalism is number one, is that nationalism is good. I've always objected to patriotism. I didn't know why, but like I looked at our country and I looked at more of the Republican Party. I'm like, man, they're the most patriotic of the two parties, but it's like, they're patriotic about sending quite literally my brothers to go fight in a foreign nation and murder people that have nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Like how is that patriotic? Like when like we stand for things that don't have anything to do with America, that don't benefit any Americans.
Not only benefit, but against your self-interest. Like
right.
You're pledging allegiance to something that is
right
against your self-interest.
So I've always, like, from a young age, I've never considered myself a Republican or conservative. And I think I understand how the political system works now.
Sure.
So like a lot of times people are Republicans, not because they're like, oh, we just believe in whatever the party's current thing is, and the party's current thing changes. And so whatever that current thing is, then you're a party loyalist. I don't believe in that. I believe out of the two-party system, this is the best one that could,
that's the war within the parties. That's
Say-
why they get to be able to flip back and forth on things, because you have two factions. The two biggest factions inside each major political party are the ones that are caucus, meaning whatever you say goes. We call them the Trumpers right now, right?
Yeah.
Like Trump says it, we do it. And then the other ones are, well, this is what best aligns with me, and I disagree with you on these issues.
Yeah.
And you'll see either hopping back and forth. But that's a battle that's been going on for 100 years within those two parties.
Well, I just showed up, so I'm just learning this the first time. But that's why, like, it's weird, because I realize that the reason that I can't be patriotic is because there is not a political system that is nationalistic. And so it gives me no national pride to be patriotic with. I don't believe that our leadership actually has in mind what's best for the nation. And so I can be patriotic on the sub things, like, oh yeah, I like NFL football. Like, that is the most American thing. Like, I like, bluegrass. Like, I can be patriotic on those things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be patriotic on this is going to be offensive to some people, but like, I'm not patriotic on our U.S. military that has been just used against Americans' own interest all my entire life.
Yeah. My life too. Yeah.
I'm against the military. I'm actually very much for the military being used to protect the national interest that best serve America.
Well, I get a little pushback too, and I'd say, hey, to my Republican friends, or even to some of my Christian friends, is you hated when Obama slaughtered kids with drones, but you're okay when Trump does it. So it's like this weird thing where we have a double standard. You hated the executive orders that that Biden put into place, but you love all the ones that Trump or whatever, pick the political party. It's this hypocrisy to where if you start calling that out, you'll lose friends on both sides. But at the same time, I have really gained a nice little circle, especially through this podcast too, of especially guys that go, no, let's just stay true to obviously what the Bible says, but even politically, stay true to these certain core principles that don't change no matter who the president or who the representative or congressman is.
And what would you say those core principles are, if you could just name a few?
Honestly, it'd probably be closer to like the 1955 Republican platform, which is very simple. It's limited government and 501(c)(3)s essentially run most of the country. Mm-hmm. That's all it really has to be. Like the government as small as possible. Now, constitutionally for the federal government, we want military and probably some natural resource protection and things like that. At the state level, they're the country. The governor's the president. There's no revenue sharing between the two. And then non-interventionism. I mean, that's why we created the United States, was only to defend those. We didn't do any nation building. We didn't go across the seas. We didn't do any of that. Man, we've spent $22 trillion in the last 20 years on other countries and other nations. Can you imagine what kind of defensive we could have here? Now, I'm saying don't even spend it on homelessness and fix all these social problems. Just think of the defenses you could have.
Okay, hear me out. I might not be in this place a year from now.
Okay.
But
it might change.
I think that I am comfortable being more imperialistic.
Okay.
Not in the way that the in a way you could say that's what we've been post World War II. We've been imperialistic.
Sure.
But Americans have gotten nothing out of it. Corporations have gotten tons out of it.
Sure.
You know, we've globalized and the corporations,
Oh,
which
no,
most of them
Yeah.
aren't even here in the United States anymore.
I'm not against imperialism. Like, if we're going to give the money, go over there and just conquer them and take it and make it part of the United States.
That's what I'm
fine
saying.
with that.
I
Let's
think
add
that I'm
Greenland,
actually
Israel, Greenland. We'll take Cuba. But
Venezuela.
And I know that
seems
sounds
like it's ripe for
Venezuela.
the taking.
I know that sounds heartless, but it's also the
No.
way the world has worked since God created it.
Yes.
Kind of like what you were saying earlier about when you're stateless, right? It'll be overtaken. It's just the way. And then I would add to that, and then set up a Christ-centered, godly
Yes.
government.
I'm not saying be exploitative.
Right.
I'm not saying take Venezuela
just because,
so that it makes the continental United States Americans better and them worse. Yeah. I'm saying it needs to be mutually beneficial.
Sure.
Like, it has to make my life better, but if it also makes their life better.
Yeah. Which it most definitely would. The whole Venezuela thing that he slipped in there and got control of that oil in that port. It's like people don't even realize what a geopolitical move that was.
Now I'm outspokenly against war.
Sure.
No, I'm not against war. I'm against stupid war that doesn't benefit Americans.
Yeah.
Period. Not even America.
That's a good clarification.
Because people don't even know what that is. Americans.
Right.
But so I was very outspoken right out of the gate. Like, this Venezuela thing's stupid. And then what Trump did?
Yeah.
Look, I'm not like a Trump loyalist, but I'm like,
yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm 100% in on whatever it is that you did.
It's a weird thing.
In fact, I think you should go farther. I think
take Chile over.
No, just in the Venezuela, let's, whatever.
Do you know, when that happened, I was in Miami, at the port of Miami, getting ready to leave for a cruise. I went out to breakfast that morning with Samantha, and there were people celebrating that were Venezuelan, and the Cubans were mad. They're like, why haven't you done something about Cuba?
It's our turn.
It's our turn. Oh. And I went,
looks like they're going to get
And I talked
turn.
to two Venezuelans, and they'd been here for about 6 years. They both had their green card, and they said, you guys don't understand. Like, it's a whole, like, you complain about politics here. Yeah, the guy was duly elected, but he bought everything, and he's kind of like, he says he's for us, but he's not. And then before that, the guy just would chop off our heads. And like, so they understand, like, it's been pretty bad to where they looked at it as like a liberation for them and going, yeah, we're part of America now. But what I was going to say is, both in your politics and your religion, or your doctrine or theology, if you have like a nuanced or a very finely, and you say, well, I'm good with this, but not with that, it gets really hard to have just a normal conversation with people, because you really have to start defining things. Like, I just had an episode for an hour on the Thomas Massey thing and went off on Trump. Now, I voted for Trump 3 times.
Yeah.
I like some of the things he is doing. There are a whole lot of things I don't like that he's doing, but it's crazy to where you either have to be all the way for Trump or all the way against Trump, and you go, well, hold on, can I just have a little bit, can we dissect a few things here? I feel that way about doctrine and theology too, to where if we make a blanket statement, I got to go, well, what exactly do you mean there? Because there's something here that we do agree on, but there's something that I don't on this thing. And it's just tough because we're becoming more, is homogenized the right word? Like big blocks of things to where it's like, you're this thing, you're that thing, you're that thing, and you got to get in one of those buckets. And that's the way I view you, and that's the way we have to talk about things. That's why I kind of wanted to talk to you about your kind of journey on some certain issues where you went, I am this, but I'm not that. I'm this now, but not then, or you know what I mean? Because the more people talk about that and go, well, we can have, you know what I mean? I can be someone from a Pentecostal charismatic background who also goes, I think I find some positives about Christian nationalism. Now I'm talking about it in this journey, and vice versa. Someone like me who's in the Calvinistic Reform camp and can't stand it when Reform brothers and sisters belittle my charismatic brothers. I was there. I know their heart. I'm not saying there isn't craziness there's craziness that happens on our Reformed right too. Are you kidding me? All these like spiritless book reading. I know all the terms and but dead inside. What do you think? You're going to read your way to heaven? You're going to memorize theology? So you know what I mean? So there's errors on all sides. But I love when you have like a weird dichotomy, kind of like you or me or some other people that I follow, where you go, oh, I've had a journey on some of these things.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? to where not even if you've changed your mind on them, but even you're looking at it differently. Because I've had that happen a couple times over the last 10 years in my life, and definitely my entire life. That's another thing too, as we get older. Tell me what you think about this. As you get a little older and wiser too, you realize, and I think you said it earlier, I may not even believe what I believe now in 5 years, and realizing that and not seeing that as a weakness, but seeing it as like a growth, right? And I'm not saying like orthodox views on Christianity or something. I'm saying I might look at an issue differently and think about it differently and see something differently about it in a year, 2, 3, 5 years from now. The guys who have it all figured out and are rigid in every single thing, and you go to their X bio and it's like, it's 19 adjectives of exactly what they are. I'm like, I'm starting to shy away from those guys. Even if I like agree with like 18 of the 19, I just go, you're so sure?
You're a bit too dogmatic.
Too dogmatic. You know what I mean? And I think maybe I was that maybe 10 or 15 years ago, to where it was like, this is it. To where now, the world's a different place even 10 years ago, right? It's totally different. To go now, maybe I need to rethink that, or I won't even, if you would have told me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have disdain when someone maybe called me a libertarian. I'd go, what are you talking about? That's like the highest. I mean, liberty is the highest. And then you go, no, it isn't. Liberty is in direct contrast, especially as a Christian. I have no liberty. I'm a slave to Christ. I always would say it with my mouth, but I really wouldn't. What does that really mean? Like, there's some things that I have to give up. Complete liberty is complete anarchy. There's only order in God, right? There's a reason why he's instituted governments, I do believe, right? And I think Romans 13 says it very well, like to bring justice to evildoers and to protect the righteous. Now, we can get into a conversation if our government's doing the opposite of that. I don't know. Yeah. Do we go Puritans and become pacifists, who I absolutely love the Puritans, or do we go crusade style and start lopping off some heads? You know what I mean? Like, both of those groups were like our brothers in Christ.
I'm okay to go either direction. I'm good. I'm comfortable with.
I think my personality is a little less Puritan, even though I absolutely love.
So you're a
Puritans.
Crusader then.
I don't know, within reason maybe, but no. Let's finish up here. So you made this journey, and then so the Charlie Kirk thing was like kind of
life-changing.
Was kind of the life-changing. Like,
oh yeah.
So let me ask you one or two things that maybe you already described it, and I just wasn't being a good listener. But when the glasses came off, or like, the rose-colored glasses came off after Charlie, what was like some of the things you started noticing? One or two things where you went, oh, I can see that for real now.
I grew a really quick disdain for evangelicalism. Look,
okay.
I am evangelical. It's like, I don't hate my heritage, and I'm not disavowing it. I just now see the road that it's led with some changeable things. And here are the changeable things that we went really, really hard on individual salvation, like really hard. I mean, evangelical is a birth. Even the term is a birth out of Billy Graham. Like, praise God for him. May we have thousands more Billy Grahams. But we went all on individualism, and that also is a product of who we are as a culture and a society.
Sure. And
every culture and society can have sins or things that they're off balance on, and one of ours is that we are individualistic and consumeristic, but that individualism informed our spirituality or our theology. That I don't have a responsibility spiritually for my wife, or my wife's spirituality does not impact me, that I exclusively have to come to Christ. And although that's true, but that there are things in the Bible that I have yet to go down the road of unpacking. They're sort of waiting there, like ready for me to, like, when I have time to really but I know that what I currently believe, my like default setting, I'll just put it that way. Right. My default setting probably isn't, because I haven't fully unpacked this to readjust my
That's
default
a great way
setting.
to explain it.
And one of those is that somehow my spouse will be saved through me.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
What do I do with that?
Yeah.
Because that's in
The believing spouse sanctifies.
That's in direct contradiction to my individualistic, like,
Sure.
I stand before Christ by myself and it's only me and my confession. And if someone wants to explain it to me, please, by all means. The other things of, like, there's a spiritual responsibility over a city. Like, why would Jesus stand and condemn woe to you? And does not name individuals, names entire cities, condemning entire cities.
Sure.
What is that? Or like God caring about a whole nation of, like, Nineveh, or I'll separate the nations like goats from sheep, like whole people groups.
Yeah.
So this was a big shift of, like, no. If I am a Christian and I feel some level of influence at whatever degree, like, my influence should pivot my whole society, not just that they would individualistically confess Christ, but the way society is ordered.
Yeah.
Specifically needs to change. And so that's why I have no problem with and this would be where evangelicals traditionally would have a problem, is like, it doesn't matter if gay marriage is legal or illegal because we all stand before Christ as individuals. So, like, and I'm saying, no.
Right.
God looks at a society and what it permits, and allowing gay marriage is reducing the cultural narrative of our alignment with Christ. And so you are making it harder for people to go to heaven by allowing wickedness, debauchery, and disorder in society than rather order in society. And so that was a huge pivot, is actually I can, take big sort of culture issues that are always downstream from politics. Politics doesn't, but once it hits politics and politics makes it a law, that makes that cultural issue more rigid and harder to change.
Sure.
So some people are like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. You can't legislate morality. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
He legislated every single day.
All of legislation is a byproduct of morals.
Yeah.
I literally had a city council person in Toledo say, George, you can't legislate morality. What are you doing then?
Yeah.
Like, by what frame?
Let's not have any laws against homicide then, or theft.
Exactly.
Or, I mean, those are all moral things. How dare you, right? And you're right that the laws then the culture then follows the laws. There's a reason why the Israelites are, in the desert. They're at Sinai, and they got this newfound freedom. And what's the very first thing that the Lord does? Is He brings Moses down with these are the things we're going to structure our culture around, our society. We have to, thou shalts, and they're not just 10 of them. There was hundreds of them on the tablets, right? Because a people state, a culture, you have a group of people down to 3 people. At some point, there's going to be some type of hierarchy figured out, what we can and can't do, what is allowed, what isn't. It's just, God created the patriarchy. God created hierarchy. It's glorifying to God to have hierarchy. He even says so in the Word of God. So you have to structure it, right? So then it becomes, okay, who's structuring it, and what are we structuring it around?
Yeah.
And really, for me, when I kind of heard the rise of Christian nationalism and those things, is that made common sense to me in the fact of, well, we're just trying to answer those questions. Now, there's some crazy stuff going on, probably in the circles that you're not aware of that I am. We call it the Reformed right, or even the New Christian right, where they're getting very, I would say, extreme within that, right? Like bringing back certain type of Old Testament laws and things like that. I would say that's where I differ.
Like, give me an example.
Adultery is death.
Yeah.
Let's just make a national law for any type of adultery, man or woman, death. Caught using pornography.
Can I push back?
Death. Can
I push back on this?
Sure.
Like I will take the case for
I'd never thought in a million years you would be arguing this side of it, but let's go.
Yeah, well, because I've seen things that I admire about Donald Trump is that he will take extreme positions.
Sure.
And move culture. Like, there are 0 people in America that are arguing against a border wall, left or right. No one is
arguing against
a border wall. Like, no one. In 16, that was like, they ridiculed him. Like, what? They're so retarded. It's the ridiculous thing to have a border wall. Like, that's going to stop everything. And now it's a non-issue. Nobody is debating.
Well, they've shifted to the immigration policy.
Sure.
ICE and things
which
like
is
that.
Great. And let's keep moving that direction to where the conversation keeps shifting until we're actually nationalistic again.
Yeah, use the same tricks that the left uses.
But I'll take the case. Again, I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just going to play the thing. It's like Old Testament law. Like, if you disrespected your father and mother, like, that was grounds for being stoned to death.
Sure.
Do you think how many kids do you think were stoned to death?
I think some were.
You do?
Oh, 100%. Good law-abiding Jews that are saying, this is what the book says?
I would argue that there are next to 0 recorded cases of people getting stoned to death.
That's a good question. We should go back and
outside
maybe ask some rabbis.
Outside of when you have a wayward son that is literally just, you know how they say like 2% of society commits like 98% of the things. When you get someone like that rises up and it gives you the ability to, do whatever.
I would say probably the category of definition of what disrespect was probably widened.
Yeah.
But it give, so you got to realize though, like, God was an authoritarian. He's a monarch. He's a king. Like, the Old Testament's very authoritarian.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what I think's happening is the world in America in the political landscape is so crazy that people are going, hey, maybe let's flirt with authoritarianism. Yeah. We need a guy in here that'll just,
Yeah. So,
and I don't know if I agree with that.
The idea would be that something like marriage, if you commit adultery, like, no, let's make a law saying, would that require the judge saying minimum sentence, execution?
Yeah.
No. That would be maximum sentence.
Oh, I was arguing there's some that's minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
I've never heard any of that.
I can introduce you to them. I go to conferences with them. They've been on the podcast.
Wow.
And it's a growing, it's farther. So like we were talking, like Doug Wilson, who's a friend of mine who's been on the podcast many times, and kind of started this with William Wolf. Wrote a book. Canon Plus is publishing. Doug Wilson's publishing company put the book up, and then it exploded.
Oh, Stephen Wolf?
Or Stephen Wolf. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. William Wolf's another guest that works for the Trump administration. Sorry. No relation. Sorry, William. Sorry, I'm Stephen. Yeah. But both last names will spelled the same. And then it kind of blew up. And Doug Wilson and I, when we talk about it, and when I'm at the conferences or wherever and we can talk in person and not just on a podcast, it's tame compared to where it has gone in the last 2 years, farther right of that. He's a Westminster too, so he would say, look at it, I'm a theonomist, but only in so much as we don't take the actual chopping off of the arm or the actual death penalty. We say we are under the new covenant now. The old covenant was authoritarian, and it had to be. And God said, I am your king, and this is what you'll do, and you obey me. And most of Israel was like, but we really don't want that. That's really hard, and we have to submit to you in everything that we do. Yep. They wanted a little more freedom and liberty. My argument would be, I don't know if I could go that far into Christian nationalism, just because I do understand that Christ has fulfilled the covenant. He hasn't changed it, but he's fulfilled it, and we act differently because of that. And there are different mercies and graces that we give based on that. Now, I'm not saying we're go commit adultery all you want and you get a slap on the wrist. I'm
Yeah.
saying we could have some instituted laws. I don't know if it necessarily be the death penalty, but I do believe adultery is a moral sin. I believe pornography is a moral sin. I think usury is a moral sin. Like there's a lot of things we could do that we look to the Word of God and go, I mean, and it would benefit so many people. People don't even realize that aren't even Christians that you go, if we were just to align us back a little bit, even on monetary policy. I mean, God only asked for 10%. The government wants 60. Like we could start there. Remember the crazy black guy that ran for office and he was like 999 or 777, like 7% tax.
Oh, Herman Cain.
Yeah, Herman Cain. Thank you. He passed away recently. Well, maybe not recently, 5 years ago. But that was his saying.
Yeah.
Way back then, he was like, I only take 10%. Government should only take whatever the number was.
Yeah.
Was it 7 or 9 or something? There's all kinds of biblical monetary policy to where if Christian nationalism kind of said, okay, well, let's go back to that. So many working class people would benefit because we live in a very progressive tax system that benefits.
You know who'd benefit
billionaires.
most? Women.
Yeah.
They would because
Yeah.
they're miserable.
Yeah.
All the stats show they have right now, liberal
So
women
sad.
have the highest suicide rate. They have the highest on, of mental illness. They have the highest on medications as far as like.
They were fed a lie. They were just fed a lie. Go out and be a boss bitch. Go be a CEO. You're the exact same as a man. The things you want are the same things as a man, which is not true.
Yeah.
We know that what fulfills a woman and what fulfills a man, totally different things. And now that generation is past the childbearing age, and they're going, oh, wait a minute.
They're miserable, but they can't admit it.
No.
Because if you admit it, then everything, your
Yeah.
whole thing. And the hard part is because if you admit it, if you're able to catch it early enough, oh, I can change.
Yeah.
How after you've pursued that far down, you can't reverse time. You can't go backwards.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of double down and be like, no. I mean, that's why you see.
It's very sad because also too, I look at people like probably your wife and my wife too. I mean, I know my wife for sure, but there is, and my wife will say this, there is a certain level of freedom, a certain level of peace, a certain level of confidence that comes from her submitting to me, but her understanding that I understand that I have to submit to Christ. Mm-hmm. And I really fear that, right? Like there's a weird thing where when you have submission, when there's actually a godly patriarchy of her going, and I jokingly say, I'll have this new fresh idea. I'm going to do this. I get all excited. And she goes, yeah, that's great. Let's pray about it. If the Lord tells you can do it, then we'll do it. I'm 100% on board. And then you go, I can out-argue my wife.
Those same conversations.
And I can convince my wife. I can't out-argue God, and he'll know. You know what I mean? So I would say it only works when the husband is also lays down his life for his wife, right? It's a two-way street. All the chauvinistic guys love the submit to your husband, but you read the next verse and it's like, oh no, you give up and most guys read that as like, I'll take a bullet for my wife. It seems very manly. It's like, oh no, you have to give up your wants and desires for her. Like her needs come first. Mm-hmm. That's what men don't like to do because we're pretty selfish and self-serving deep down. But my point is Samantha has brought me along on this even more farther on some of the feminist and women issues. I was always anti-feminist, first, second, and third wave. But even her going, I've said this before, so I can say it. But in private conversations, she'll just be like, women need to submit to men. Okay, we get all that. She goes, why are we even voting? What does it even matter? She goes, in her eyes, she goes, if I submit to you, you're the head of the household, and I do that. But I say, well, one, because not everyone has the same relationship you and I have, or that George and Sarah have, or whoever. I'm just throwing you in there too. Christian relationship. She goes, it makes no sense. Why would I vote against you, first of all, for one household? And and this was something she was talking about 7-8 years ago. And that well before.
Samantha is ahead of her time.
And
ahead of her time. I'm on that train. I'm abolish the 19th. One vote. One
I
household.
know, but I felt embarrassed. I'm like, shh, quiet. What are you gonna make me?
You're gonna make me look like
a crazy chauvinist, misogynist, right? And she's like, no, she was just viewing it from her perspective of like, why would you? It doesn't make any sense. She goes, honestly, I would really only want. She goes, I'd really only want people that have like that own land or something. And I went, that was a thing. That was a thing in our country up until 1990. How did you know? Or 1910.
Here's my thing. Only married men. period.
Only married men? Really?
Married men. And here's why. It's simply this. It's one household, one vote.
Okay.
So my whole framework is who are the greatest stakeholder. You need a wide sample.
Okay.
So you need a lot of people. You don't want everyone. You need a wide sample of stakeholders that are going to have the fruit from their lives are going to have the greatest impact on society.
Sure.
So children, right?
Yeah.
So you want stable families that are going to produce children. They are the greatest stakeholders, not like CEOs, not, whatever on the other spectrum. Like, no offense, but like, I don't want homeless people voting. If you can't hold down a job, why do you have a voice on who leads the nation?
Sure.
It's just like common sense. I mean,
Or a bunch of other issues down ballot too.
Yeah.
That directly affect you.
Yeah. So I'd compromise if it was just one household, one vote, but I would go one household, one vote, and property owners. And, the argument would be like, hey, we live in a nation right now where it's really hard to own land. And I'm telling you what, if my children or grandchildren didn't have the prospects of owning land, you better bet every vote that I cast, are you going to make it easier or harder for my kids to own land?
So do you know what you do with that? What you just said? You take it from what helps me now to what helps me generationally and sets up legacy.
Yes.
That's how people would start voting. They would vote societal, building a
You
civilization.
get rid of this boomer mentality of like
Don't get me
what
started on the
benefits me
boomers.
now, and you'd have multi-generational what benefits my grandchildren.
I've been talking so generously about the older generation and having to listen to their wisdom, but the boomers are pissing me off the last 5 or 6 years, and I go, it's so hard for me to bite my tongue. I'm arguing. I got a Reformed Baptist brother who I absolutely love, and he's been on the show, and we're going back and forth on this Thomas Massey thing. He's so in it for Trump, just slappy, and I go, you're so nuanced on your theology, but yet so stupid on your policy. Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. But my point is I don't know if I would go all women. I'm saying I like one household. If let's say you're a single female that owns land, absolutely you can vote. In my world.
Why not married?
What's that?
Why single female that owns land?
Because she's a stakeholder in the fact that she owns land.
Yeah, but
she owns real property.
There is no children to inherit that land. So she's not thinking next generation.
So you're saying only married?
Only married men.
Only married men, landowners or no?
Yeah,
what if
only
you live in an
married men
apartment?
landowners. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll add one more. And if your grandfather was not a U.S. citizen, you can't vote.
So you'd have to at least go back 3 generations. Mm-hmm. You would have a radically different country, probably within 1 generation.
Yep. And would that radically different country be better or worse?
I think it would be better. I think also it goes back to your thing of saying, I just want to be a Christian from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Most men couldn't vote 110 years ago.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, not a racial issue.
No. I'm saying this weird thing where most people, and you probably went down this rabbit hole and you know it too. Most people, it's beat into your head that the right to vote, it's your right, right? Like almost like it's an inalienable natural right, when in fact it's just a legal right because they can take it away, just like driving a car, right? My right to say whatever I want isn't something that you can take away. It's inherent to, right? It's inalienable. It's a difference between the rights. But my point is like, it's so ingrained in our head that people can't even think in a world where there's people who can vote. It progressively just started. I think it was 1910 or 1912. If you didn't own land and you were a man, you couldn't vote. A white man. Yeah. In this country, people don't realize like men got the right to vote about 10 years before women got the right. And when I say men, I'm talking about non-land owning men. There was men that owned land that could vote before that. So it's this weird thing where only in the last 100 years have we progressed from non-owning men to women to people of color, right? Minority, whatever you want to call it, to it's only been a 100-year span.
No, I'm unashamedly and I'm outspoken. I want to make it harder for people to vote. I want to drastically limit it. Not because, and some people are like, oh, that's hateful. Like it's not hateful. It's because I love society. Because I want your children to prosper and I want my children to prosper. And so I think I didn't understand a republic. The idea when I was full on like, oh, democracy is the best, like the greatest degree of democracy is the best, because I didn't understand a republic. And
big difference between the two. Yeah,
big difference. And I'm not even saying the republic is the best system, unless we want to burn everything down.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is this would be a really good change that would correct an unbelievable large amount of problems overnight. You'd eliminate abortion overnight. Marriage rates would skyrocket. Fertility rates would skyrocket. Like half of the woes, you know, young people not able to buy houses would plummet, you know?
Yeah.
So all of these major social issues that we're experiencing now would radically change. And you know, women, to some degree, like, I don't blame anyone from getting upset with that idea. Like, hey, you're taking away my right to vote. No. I'm not taking away. You have the right to, your power to vote is the most powerful vote on the planet. You have a 1-to-1 ratio of representation.
Of representing what you think you want.
And that is marriage. You get to choose who you marry, and that person represents only one when you have kids, they become they represent a few different people, but before kids, they're only representing themselves and their spouse.
It's also pretty crazy how we had prohibition in this country and women got that passed without the right to vote. I mean, they did not have the right to vote, and it was women who led prohibition and went to Congress and said, "You can't buy my vote. I don't even have the right to vote." They took the moral high ground.
Yeah.
They said, "You're not doing what is godly, what is right, what is moral. You're for drunkards, you're for gambling." And they had this like weird moral high ground where they were like, "We're not a constituent." So middle, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. And they literally got Congress to pass a federal ban on alcohol, and they didn't even have the right to vote. So this weird thing
I actually didn't know that. That's amazing.
So this weird thing, and
well, they also did that with the right to vote.
Well, 75% of women polled didn't want the right to vote. Did you know that? Or 74%.
So it's like a squeaky minority.
Yeah. Well, no, it was mostly males that were like, "Yeah, let's get him."
This was not a male idea. There's
no
way you can.
No. I'm saying
guaranteed this was like
the male politicians
of
were fine
really
with it.
annoying women.
I'm saying in like 1918, 1919, whatever those years were leading up to it, they took national and state polls, and most of them came back 72 to 74% of women said, "No, we're good. We've kind of got it good to where we're not getting petitioned by the politician. We kind of have this higher status in society where like women, we open doors, you go fight wars for us, you do all these things for us." It's kind of chivalry is what it was called, right? So we've kind of got the best of both worlds right now. And back then the thought was too, we don't want to be in the workplace. We'd rather be at home. We like to be the executor of the household. So it came back like mid-70s usually of women going, "No, we're not for suffrage." And it was a vocal minority working in tandem with Rothschilds and some of the elite male congressmen.
Always the Rothschilds.
It was
that era.
That said, we have an agenda, and we need people to think very non-generationally. And look at
you can't have infinite inflation without.
Look at women are nurturers and immediate help for people. We love that about them. We want that. You do not want dad helping you with the scrape. You want mom because she'll hug you and kiss you and tell 100%. You it's going to be better. And dad's going to go, put some Windex on it and walk it off. Or, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah, rub some dirt in it.
Women think very immediate emotionally, and that's good. Men think generationally and build civilizations, and that's very good. And together, they can have a very happy civilization. But when you have... Well, you know this. I'm preaching to the choir. But for those who don't, when you have the majority of voters, which are female, thinking immediate, emotionally, and not for the better of a long-term society, well, you get what you have right now.
Do you know that it's not even the majority of voters? Do you know this just happened recently? It's now for the first time, probably in human history, that at least in America, that women outnumber men in the workforce.
I did hear that. I'm so far removed as just a small business owner. I don't even know what the workforce is like.
That's mind-blowing, though.
But that's crazy. So there's more women than men in the workforce.
And look,
I don't know how that's going to do for society.
I am very pro-women. I'm also very pro-man because I'm pro-humanity. But I can tell you that this won't cause something. This is an effect.
Yeah.
And it's an effect of masculinity being so deteriorated.
Yeah.
And it's not getting, the current trajectory is not getting better. Praise God, you're a elder millennial. What year were you born?
81. So I'm right on the cusp.
Yeah. I'm 82. So we sort of had the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Where we got to be millennials and be young when the tech revolution happened, while we bought houses. You know, if we needed to, we could get good jobs. We could go to college if we went to college and not have massive debt. But like now these young people, and Greg, I just had this conversation this morning with someone. I couldn't even believe this. The first few times that I was told this, I talked to young men in their late 20s to early 30s, and they cannot find good women to marry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my brother in Christ, you know, like, come on. And
no, it's a real thing.
But after you hear that over and over and over again, I still can't wrap my mind around it. Like, my advice is go to church and, you know, whichever woman makes the best meatballs, like, marry that one. Like,
yeah.
Like that was my plan, and
yeah,
it worked. And
oh, it's a different world out there. I'm in a church now to where we've grown from probably 400 to about 800 in the last 3 years. We've had a baby born in our church once every 9 days on average.
Come on.
And
over the
last 4 years, one every 9 days. It's a, you know, I would say you have a pretty good mix of people older than me, 50s, 60s. You have probably the smallest minority, or the smallest demographic group is my age, 40 to mid 40s. And the majority is probably under 35. Wow. A lot of young families, but
the majority is young families.
Yeah.
Praise God.
And I mean, I walked into the church. I only got 3 kids. Am I even Reformed? Am I even Calvinistic? I mean, it's 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like be fruitful, multiply type stuff.
That gives me hope.
But what my point was, there's a lot of, our youth group is 150 kids. Mm-hmm. So it's like a lot of within the youth group of like being in the same mindset of like, most women know that they're going to stay home and probably homeschool, or at least Christian school, or for at least for the formative years. And like the man's supposed to go out and work and provide, and like she can find things to do from home, but it's not going to be like a two income type thing where they're both working full time. And it's been this, especially with my kids my age, it's been a blessing to where that's just kind of the mindset from the young into the youth into the college age. And there's women, they go off to college, and like I was saying, my daughter's thinking about doing something at college and things like that, but it isn't the focus. Her thing is like, I want to find something to where I know I can be home and raise a family as well too. And it helps when you have not only an entire church, but an entire youth group also with that mindset. And then you see, they go outside of the church and they go, ugh, no one lines up with what my life goals. And you go, kind of good. That's kind of how it should be, within Christianity, to where we have a lot of families I want to say intermarrying in our church, because it's like, no,
that's the right thing to say.
Yeah. I need someone with the same worldview that goes, we're not going to be clashing. And, he's going, why aren't you at work? Or she's going, I need to be at work, or whatever it is. And my point being, I was just agreeing with your point of, you talk to a lot of young guys, because we have a large public school contingency in our church too. It's not like we're all a bunch of homeschoolers. I'm actually in the minority as a homeschooler.
Sorry to hear that.
I know, right? Believe me, with my pastors, I go round and round on them. They know I'm the homeschool guy. Kind of like I was the sovereignty guy at your church. I'm the I talked to one of the elders, and I got on a little tirade.
I mean, we sent our kids to Christian private school towards the end.
Yeah.
But like again, I always want to default on the extreme, knowing that people won't go quite the extreme. I'm like, don't ever, shared parenting with the state is the most foolish thing you could possibly do, especially in the current state.
Yeah.
Handing my kids over to the government and saying like,
it's crazy that
I will allow a teachers union to pick who babysits my children, to give them a substandard,
well, that's
education.
The thing too, substandard, right?
It's like,
you look at homeschoolers and private school
kids. It's insane, Greg. It's insane for any rational human being to hand their children over to the state. I hope you're listening.
Right, you're going crazy. No, I just tell people too, you can pull up some really easy stats from all national publications that, like, your kids are going to work for my kids, probably.
Yeah.
They're going to earn more money. They're going to stay married longer.
They're not going to marry my kids.
They're going to have a higher medium income. They're going to outscore your kids on every single standardized test there is. Like if you go to Christian school or a private school or homeschool. I mean, and it's not even like, oh, I'm so smart and I taught our standard is so low for public school.
Yeah.
It is a crime, dude.
Yeah.
Like compared to other countries, it's not. And it started with Bush and the no kid should fail or whatever that. Just pass them through. I talked to so many public school teachers and they're just like, we're not even allowed to give them an F. We give them a D, and then we just push them through, pass them through. And you go, oh,
dude, I do ministry in the hood, and we have kids in our neighborhood that have not really been back to school since 2020.
Yeah, because
schools shut down for 2 years. They sort of looped out of and cannot enter back into the school system. Wow. So if they show up, they can get that D.
Yeah. But
they cannot read. And it's super sad because it means like, especially even from a Christian standpoint is, how do you, our Christianity is really based around Bible reading. How do you implement that to a population that can't read? Like
right.
We just have never dealt with that. I know there's missionaries
we're going to go back
out
to
there
the Dark Ages
around the world that know how to deal with that. We just never have had to deal with that.
Yeah.
On a
That's
localized
crazy.
level.
All right, let's bookend this. Let's finish it up. I've got a client meeting. I didn't realize we went a couple hours here. I appreciate talking to you, but you need to come back at some point and we'll explore some more other stuff. Anytime you have an open invitation. It was great talking to you and reconnecting with you, but you got anywhere you want to send people, or you got anything going on where they can click on stuff or follow, or you got any wares that you're hawking? Promoting?
My X profile is anonymous. I'm one of those anons. So,
okay.
I mean, you can find me on Facebook.
If you want to.
Quite controversial there. So I don't think
Well, I've enjoyed your videos. Your political ones too on the predictions was pretty cool. The Bitcoin stuff I'm always very interested in. Which my brother and I were just having a huge conversation about XRP. He's a big investor in that. He has some Bitcoin, but he's more an XRP.
He doesn't have enough Bitcoin.
Doesn't have enough Bitcoin. But all right, we'll link it up, and if people want to follow you and see you there. But George, thanks so much for coming by, man.
All right, bless you, bro.
Yeah, love you. Hey, guys, remember, you can find out more about us at DMWpodcast.com. We have, snarky merch on there, too. You can support the show. You get the Wine 'em, Dine 'em, Romans 9 'em mug, or one of my favorite shirts. Sometimes you just got to quote scripture to the pagans. My favorite verse, Job 13:6. How about you shut up and let that be your wisdom? But either way, guys, remember, the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. God bless. Be sure to check us out at DMWpodcast.com, where you can purchase the best and snarkiest merch on the internet, support the show, and leave us a review or message. Dead Men Walking can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Dead Men Walking Podcast, and on Twitter X at Real DMW Podcast. The Dead Men Walking Podcast is part of the Fight Laugh Feast Network. For exclusive show content, be sure to download the Pub TV app and become a member. If you're a business that needs to reach hundreds of thousands of potential customers in your demographic, podcast advertising might be for you. Send all inquiries to deadmenwalkingpodcast@gmail.com.
None your biscuits.